Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us for this Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather. On yesterday's satellite imagery, we had a big mass of clouds out here over the Bering Sea from the Russian coast there, extending southward with the bulk of the moisture streaming northwestward across the Alaska Peninsula. Rain, gusty winds there pushing up along the coast and extending back toward the Pribilofs, a break farther to the west, and another system farther to the north and northwest. Otherwise, a pretty nice day, sunshine, Kodiak Island through the central interior. Thunderstorms developing in these areas of clouds along the Alaska Range, just west of Fairbanks and off to the east. A mass of clouds right through here. That also edging its way westward, west and southwestward, something like this, and then southward, wrapping down around the backside of a low pressure area that's sitting just off the southern southeast coast there, and developing front right through here with some more rain pushing up into the area. Otherwise, North Slope looking really good, some sunshine there, and the western Arctic coast look like some low clouds and fog on the east side. And that hadn't changed a whole lot today. You can see that low cloud deck actually pushed inland a little bit this morning, then started burning back there with the afternoon sun over the North Slope. Central coast eastward, seeing some fog flurries today and breezy east winds, and that offshore flow keeping it sunny right out to the coastline on the west side. A day much like yesterday here over the interior areas, except this batch of moisture sliding southwestward brought showers all the way down into the Kenai Peninsula today. Showers not quite reaching Kodiak Island to any great extent. Otherwise, we've got a band of moisture, that old front here south of the island, and then it breaks back out into sunshine there around Fairbanks on up to the north. Got actually this afternoon line of thunderstorms developing from eastern Norton Sound all the way over to the west and northwest edge of that moisture band over the southeast interior. Then a break between that, cord over to Yakutat, some sunshine, and then that low still sitting off the coast there, a little bit farther to the north. And that allowed that front to wrap up in with some rain into the Panhandle during the day today and from overnight last night. Back to the west, that front that was right up, or all that moisture was along the southwest coast yesterday, got pushed back to the west. Easterly flow coming around here just drove the clearing all the way out to just about the Pribilofs there. So the rain band now out to the west, northward, west of St. Lawrence Island. And then this weakening system down here, rainfall sliding up and falling mostly along and south of the Alaska Peninsula around the upslope areas, and then breaking off in some dissipating moisture pushing across the Pribilofs, breaking off into showers right on the edge of the clearing there. And then just some clouds, maybe a few showers on down into the eastern Aleutians. Looked like some sunshine today for Adak and Atka. And then the next system back out here to the west, but a lot of clouds already spilling into the far western Aleutians in advance of that. And you can see again today, looks like a low center back to the southwest there, and that's driving that moisture and clouds up into the far western Aleutians. Otherwise, this part going westward there, really weakening as this slides in underneath. And for the chart today, 1,005 millibar low off the coast, actually well off the coast, looks like in the offshore area of the, I thought I was getting dizzy there, but the camera, anyway, the low pressure off the southeast coast there brought rain, heaviest over the southern Panhandle. And then another system, southeasterly flow, brought rain along and south of the Alaska Peninsula, with showers back to the Fox Islands scattered across the Pribilofs. A little more extensive up here over the St. Paul, St. George area, more scattered down to the south. and a trough right through the southern interior, or just south of the central interior. That was a axis, or the focal point for those thunderstorms developing today along that feature, either side of that, and then showers, more continuous area showers and rain, isolated thunderstorms here from the southeast interior, Copper River Basin, North Waytoke, on down into the Kenai Peninsula, Prince William Sound area. High pressure at the surface right off the coast, dry conditions there, as I mentioned, for Yakutat, and then the rainfall with this system down over the southern panhandle. And rain not quite reaching Kodiak Island there on the with this system, and then the showers haven't quite reached it to the north there, so kind of in between is some clouds. Sunshine, southwest interior, north interior, temperatures warming quite nicely. Upper 60s to as high as upper 70s through the interior this afternoon. Big high up there in the Arctic, circulating chillier air, low clouds, fog, flurries to the central and eastern Arctic coast, but sunshine across the north slope. And then the outer edge of that rain shield here coming in with that next system out over the far western Aleutians. Tonight will advance a little bit, not really a whole lot, kind of hanging back there or sliding underneath. Southeasterly flow keeps it wet out in that area there, but nothing too heavy. Wind's not all that bad either. In fact, pretty light winds here for Adak and Atka. Much of the Bering Sea looking light on the winds. High pressure centered there off the Russian coast, keeping a light northerly breeze here from the Bering Strait southward, but really not too significant at all. So just some variable clouds, a lot of clearing here over the western interior, into the central areas again. Evening thunderstorms, western Alaska range, and right through this zone, right through there where the green shaded area is, which possibly could bring something in toward the Chugach Mountains, Talkeetnas, and a better chance off to the northeast as far as any thunderstorm activity goes. And this will be the heaviest precipitation area of mainland Alaska overnight tonight. Otherwise, isolated showers around the Barrens and pretty good along the North Gulf Coast there. South to north flow increasing, bringing rain northward later tonight. The front still way down to the southwest there, but quite a fetch. Southerly winds will be feeding that moisture right on up into the northern areas. Look for the winds to be on the increase here across the Gulf of Alaska and eventually into the Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island. And tomorrow that front advances northward. Southeast winds 40 knots in the forecast all along the southeast coast. We've got gale warnings tomorrow increasing to gale force for the North Gulf Coast and then down along the east side of Kodiak Island. Otherwise, partly to mostly cloudy with isolated thunderstorms, showers again developing around the Fognak Island area, Ketchimak Bay, Iliamna, western Alaska Range, isolated scattered thunderstorms. Same thing possible here for northern Prince William Sound into the Copper River Basin, and then on to the northeast. Back to the farther to the north and the west, another mostly sunny day. Temperatures back into the 60s to mid, possibly upper 70s here from the Yukon Delta onto the northeast. And then that cool condition with the fog and flurries continues on the central and eastern Arctic coast. So not a lot of change going on up there at all, or anywhere through the Chukchi Sea on down into the northern Bering. Very weak trough here, moves eastward, not much with it at all, maybe some showers for Nikolsky. And then the main front weakening as it comes eastward as well, so a band of light rain and fog with that. And the winds probably looking at small craft advisories with that front, but minimum small craft advisories at that. And then taking a look at the outlook for Tuesday, it looks like this system will not move a whole lot. Another low will develop and rotate north and then northwest to, should look something like this, 997 millibar low, pulls northward here, west of the Queen Charlotte. So that'll bring another increase in the winds there, especially on the south coast. Late in the day, chances of rain still, especially Prince of Wales Island, on up toward Mount Edgecombe greatest, and then less over toward the border or to the north. And it could be a dry day for the Copper River Basin with now it looks like most of the shower activity, easterly flow pulling a batch of showers, rain. Some of those could be on the moderate side right up into the Kenai Peninsula. And that could spill over into the Cook Inlet area there, they say from Anchor Point on up into Turnagain Arm, Palmer, Anchorage. Those areas could see some better chance of showers in the afternoon on Tuesday. And then up here along that trough axis, same sort of pattern, isolated scattered thunderstorms developing along that in the afternoon. And then showers down along the Alaska Peninsula. Sunny, mostly sunny, variable clouds up to the north there. Tightening gradient up along the Brooks Range to the Arctic coast. A little breezier on the north slope for Tuesday, maybe 10 to 20 miles an hour, a few higher gusts. That could extend out to the coastline there, but it looks like the main gradient from the Brooks Range on out to the coast. A little bit more of a northeast breeze here now for the northern Bering Sea and down the coast, but nothing too very significant. High pressure keeps low clouds and fog in the forecast anywhere out in that area. Looks pretty good here, that offshore flow though off the western Arctic coast, and partly to mostly sunny. For the Unalaska area, maybe the Pribilofs, we've got to go for fog considering the time of year it is, and IFR. And then IFR with this front definitely as it kind of stalls out over the central Aleutians, with the main low center hanging back toward Attu Island. And for temperatures this afternoon, we'll start in the cool area there for the Panhandle. 49 at Annette, and otherwise lower 50s just about everywhere else, although you get up to Skagway, hit 61 degrees, 57 Yakutat, lower 50s for Cordova, and lower 50s, lower to mid to upper 50s here, quite a range for the Kenai Peninsula, 57 to Palmer. Otherwise, Kenai, Seward, 51 degrees today, 53 in Cordova, 56 Gulkana, add 10 degrees on the other side of the Denali Highway there, well, on down toward Talkeetna, northern Susitna Valley. Cantwell on the other side of the highway. Otherwise, near 70s across the mountains there, lower 70s for the Tanana Valley. Fairbanks, 73, same thing for Tanana, and 76 this afternoon in the greater McGrath-Nikolai area. And pretty good temperatures right up into the Koyukuk Valley with Bettles at 74, 68 for Yukon. Upper 50s, lower 60s there for the Brooks Range. And then that chilly northeast flow, northeast wind, clouds, flurries there, upper 20s to lower 30s for the central and eastern Arctic coast. But offshore flow, sunshine, 50 degrees at Point Lay. And then almost 70 there, Kotzebue 69 degrees and a 64 at Ambler, 72 at Ambler, Daring or Buckland at 64, mid 60s for Nome, and we've got a 74 degree reading there all the way out. I believe that's St. Michael, that 74 degree reading with lower 70s across all of the southwest interior today. A little cooler, lot cooler out over the Bering Sea, mid 40s for the Pribilofs, Adak and Atka, Unalaska, and the peninsula. Lows for tonight, very mild here, upper 40s to mid 50s over the southwest interior, and not too bad, upper 40s is near 50, 51 possibly there for the Tanana Valley, cooling into the 40s, north of the Brooks Range, upper 20s right on out to the coastline, but milder back toward the Noatak Valley, 40s for the lows, southern Alaska, Copper River Basin, and the Panhandle. Highs for tomorrow, again, back well into the 70s. Here over the southwest interior, almost out to the coastline again, looking good for the Seward Peninsula, 60s, 70s over the inland areas there of the peninsula. Eastward, getting into a little more cloudiness here, so holding it down in the upper 60s, and right near freezing there for the central Arctic coast, 50s, lower 60s, southeast interior, and 50s mostly for the Panhandle again. For flying weather, Marshall VFR late tonight into early tomorrow morning here from Dixon Entrance right on up to the passes there, with some IFR, and then areas of marginal VFR inland here of southern Alaska, Prince William Sound. IFR, eastern Arctic coast continuing like today, maybe some on the west side. Good VFR right down and off the coast here, but looks like the Pribilofs back into the IFR. And for tomorrow afternoon, they're on the eastern edge of that, but a big area all the way out to Shimei and Attu. This area lingering, now it's just marginal for the eastern Arctic coast. Marginal VFR along the Alaska Range, down into the Talkeetnas, western Prince William Sound, the Alaska Peninsula, and looks like IFR, marginal VFR, spreading back in from south to north there across the Panhandle. So it'll be a break, and then you'll see things deteriorate up toward Chilkoot and White Pass. The main IFR area staying pretty ways, still a fair distance off the coast. And for Anaktuvuk and Adigan, both VFR flying conditions in the forecast again tomorrow, and then for Lake Clark and Merrill, as well as rainy and I believe windy as well, all marginal VFR at times throughout the day. But Isabel VFR, and then back to marginal for Mentasta. Could go VFR if the moisture moves off. Risk of a thunderstorm. And for Tanita VFR. Portage occasionally marginal, and Chilcoot and White, moisture coming northward, so starting out good, becoming VFR. And for the freezing levels, cool pocket here, about 4,000 feet there, Panhandle, out into the Gulf of Alaska, 6,000 feet. Really not much of a gradient here, 6,000 plus into the central interior, and then chilling back off 2,000 to 4,000 feet out over the Bering Sea. And for the icing threat, up along and east of the Alaska Range here, all the way down to Kachemak Bay, right up into possibly the Susitna Valley, just some areas of possible light rime icing or mixed could occur. Also here for the Alaska Peninsula, the eastern Aleutians, a chance of some icing conditions. The main area though will be here with that big fetch of moisture rolling into the southeast coast. Could see some occasional widespread moderate above about 7,000 feet here from Dixon Entrance right up across Prince of Wales Island to just south of Elfin Cove. And the jet stream south to north here, 130 knots, kind of dying back as it gets inland into the Yukon there, but that's pulling that moisture northward. Otherwise, the upper low off to the west, upper level high out over the northern Bering Sea now, keeping it really nice and mild over the interior, lots of sunshine, and the main jet trying to get up to the Aleutians there, but doesn't quite make it. And for the 9,000 foot winds, strongest along mostly off the coast here, southeasterly 30 to 35 here at 9,000 feet, turning easterly, and then northeasterly east of Kodiak Island at about 25, but pretty strong coming across south of Kodiak Island there, 50 knots crossing the Alaska Peninsula, dropping back to 15 there for Togiak. Light variable winds, southern Alaska, easterlies 5 to 15 on up to the Arctic coast. Winds die off out to the west here, pick back up a little bit with that next system out west, and then for 3,000 feet, 28 to 30 knot winds out here with that thing, otherwise lighter, and 50 to 55 knots, 3,000 feet here off the coast, fair distance, 30 right along the coast, and then that kind of wrapping back around again just east of Kodiak Island, and then a branch coming out this way, about 25 knots, lighter over the interior, 10 to 15 or 5 to 15, maybe up to 20 knots eastern Arctic coast. And taking a look at the turbulence below 4,000 feet, really spotty out here, really nothing significant at all for the western Aleutians, and maybe with some breezes here for small aircraft. Could see some light to isolated, very isolated moderate chop below 3,000 feet. Also for the Brooks Range with a tightening gradient up in that area, but the big area will be Kodiak Island with his increasing winds, especially in the afternoon. All of the southeast coast, especially along the coast there, occasional moderate chop below 5,000 feet. And after the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
The Valdez fly-in started out probably back in the 80s. It became this mecca of short-field takeoff and landing, bush flying, you know, where everybody meets. All the cowboys show up. You know, everybody shows up with their horse, you know.
Okay, welcome everyone. We'll start the safety briefing for the SOL competition. If you have not done it somewhere else, do not do it here first. This is not the time to try the new technique.
This competition prepares pilots for landing off airport. Whenever you're looking for a place to land, you have to be absolutely certain about that spot. You have to be able to touch down at that spot or a little bit later and never before it. So being able to get down exactly where you want and stop as quickly as you can, one is really fun in competition, but two is excellent training for flying supercars.
There's a lot to it that separates some of these guys from just your normal flying around the United States types of pilot. I guess that's why they come and seek me out a little bit. I've been flight instructing for about 20 years now. Like any kid, whatever his dad does, you probably don't want to do it, you know, but it's the only thing I ever knew. When you're hanging around a bunch of pilots, we have a lot of pride, you know, we talk about, well, I've been flying this airplane for the last 5,000 hours, you know, and I've been in this airplane for 2,000 hours, and, you know, I learned to fly when I was 16.
I've been flying since I was about 2 weeks old.
I've been flying since the headset would fit over my little baby head.
I started flying with my father when I was 8 years old.
So I asked my dad one day, I'm like, hey, when was the first time I was in an airplane? And my dad looks at me and he says, son, you were conceived in an airplane.
This will be my 6th year at the Valdez Fly-In, and I've won first place in 4 of the 5 years. We have the T3 tail wheel suspension. You can find that at supercubsnorth.com. In the front here we have the leading edge slats. They help the air stay attached to the wing and help it fly at a high angle of attack. We have a 240 horsepower motor. It cruises around 85 miles an hour, but it climbs out at, better than anything I've ever flown in. Most of the guys that I compete with at Valdez at the STOL competition are seasoned bush pilots that have been around the block for a long, long time. They've seen way more than I'll ever see in my life. So they all give me a hard time about having won in the past. And I just hope that I don't run out of luck here. Because these guys, they are certainly really good, and I don't doubt that they'll come back and get me one day.
All right, you need to do it within 194 feet. You landed. 55 feet 8 inches. Let's give them a wave.
I've been flying in Valdez at the competition for about the last 10 years, and it's been great fun, but nothing has ever come close to the amount of pride and fun that I had today getting to compete with my daughter in this event.
I've been coming here with my dad since I was probably an infant, and this year he finally convinced me to compete too.
Laura J. Erb. Her first landing distance was 209 feet, so we'll see if she can beat her first landing distance. And yes, that will qualify. All right, Wes, proud dad. Now, let's see, her second landing was 162. Your best landing was, if I remember right, 152? That's close, but I would have to check the numbers. I think she might have beat me this year.
Getting in a Super Cub for the first time is like strapping on a set of wings and see everything from a bird's perspective, and then touch down and get out, and suddenly you're 100 miles from where you last were, or maybe even in a place that nobody's ever been before, and it's just an unreal experience. Flying up in Alaska is a lot different than flying the lower 48 because the weather changes so rapidly, the terrain is much more varied. Having the opportunity to be a pilot in Alaska has really defined who I am as a pilot and who I am as a person.
Welcome back. Gale force southeast winds here in the forecast for the coast there. Along and off the coast, seas building to 14 feet, east 40 on the north coast. Clarence Strait, southeast 35 knots with seas building to 8 feet, and then up to 20 knots for Stevens Passage. Outlook for Tuesday, lighter winds here, south 15 for Lynn Canal, and then northerly for Stevens Passage. Southeast 25 coming back up to 25 knots for Clarence Strait, and then gales coming up again with that next system approaching the southern coast. Otherwise, southeast winds 30 knots, so pretty stiff breeze persisting through Tuesday. Prince William Sound variable to north at 15, southeast 10, northern Cook Inlet, north 10 to the south of the Forelands, northeast 15, pick up to 25 knots, Shelikof Strait. Gale force northeast winds here increasing throughout the afternoon for the east side of Kodiak Island across the Barrens to east 40 knots on the eastern North Gulf Coast. Then for Tuesday, small craft advisories, 25 to 30 knots, all the way down to the east side of Kodiak Island, 30 knot northeasterly winds, Shelikof Strait. Small craft advisories, Kachemak Bay, 20 knot winds in the forecast for Cook Inlet and Prince William Sound. Bristol Bay, light northwesterlies tomorrow, northeast 20 to 25. Small craft advisories all on the Pacific side of the peninsula, right up to Sitkinak. And then for Tuesday, now we've got 25 knot winds back into Bristol Bay there. Seas 3 feet, maybe a little more than that, give or take. Falling back to 20 knots here down the coastline. And then small craft advisories north becoming northeast up towards Sitkinak. Eastern Aleutians, east-northeast at 20, southeast 15 to 20, not too bad wind-wise there for the central Aleutians. Small craft advisories out towards Shimya and Attu. Then they'll swing around to the southwest at the same speed, 10-foot seas out there. Southeast here, west of Adak, and then east-southeast 20. And then swinging around to the northwest, 20 to 25 there. That'll be mostly for Unalaska Island. And the southwest coast, northwest 20 tomorrow, north 15, both St. Lawrence and St. Matthew Islands, east 20 for the Pribilofs. And for Tuesday, northerly winds at 20 knots here, all the way down to Nunivak Island. Then they swing around to the southeast at 20 knots there, west of Kuskokwim Bay, 4-foot seas, northwest for the Pribilofs, northeast for St. Matthew Island. And the central and eastern coastline up there along the Arctic, 15 knots out of the east, picking up to 20 knots on the west side, then falling back down to 10 to 15 all the way down to the Bering Strait. And then for Tuesday, north to northeast, 20 knots, turn easterly again at 20 for the west side. And then we've got pretty uniform wind pattern, 15 or 20 knots there from the central coast, or actually the entire stretch of the coastline there to Demarcation Point. And for tonight, breezy, a lot of clouds and flurries, IFR, especially on the east side there, some of that working back into the north slope later on this evening and overnight. Not much change over the interior, diminishing thunderstorm threat here for the Alaska Range in across the eastern Tanana Valley, but quite an area of showers persisting here from the 40-mile country right on down, possibly into the Matanuska Valley. And rain, wind coming back up toward the Panhandle late tonight, and we'll see tomorrow that front pushes those gale force winds right up to the coastline into Clarence Strait, increasing wind all the way around to Kodiak Island. And then that weakens on Tuesday for lighter winds, but still wet for the Panhandle, unsettled southern Alaska.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.